The story begins with a married couple living a happy life. The husband's name is Sue, and he loves his wife and children deeply. Because of them, he is very dedicated and hardworking in his job. We learn that Sue works as a manager in a paper factory and has been there for 25 years. In appreciation of Sue's dedication to work, he receives bonuses regularly, and every time he gets a bonus, he celebrates with his wife and children and brings them gifts. As for his wife, Mary, she is a housewife who takes care of raising their son, She, and their young daughter, Ree. Although She is Mary's son from another man, Sue considers him exactly like his own son. One day, Sue is shocked to learn that the factory he works at has been sold to the Americans and that they will be using robots and artificial intelligence to modernize the factory. Therefore, a large number of employees working at the factory will be laid off, including Sue. The next day, Sue tries to tell his family what happened, but he can't do that, especially when he sees his children happy in their lives. He believes he can find a solution to the problem he's in. Afterwards, Sue goes to attend a psychological rehabilitation session the factory organized for the employees who were laid off, so that frustration doesn't overwhelm them and they can start looking for other job opportunities. But Sue isn't convinced by this at all. He goes to call his wife and talks to her on video call as they're used to. At that moment, Mary is at tennis practice, and when she notices that Sue is upset, she thinks he's upset about work pressure. But Sue's tears fall and he tells her that he was laid off from work. Mary is shocked when she hears the news, but she quickly pulls herself together and talks to Sue, comforting him. She tells him that he will surely find another job soon, and also tells him that he will find a position that suits his extensive work experience. But unfortunately, this doesn't happen. 3 months pass, and we see Sue working as a worker in a paper warehouse. At that moment, his colleague, who was with him at work, calls him and tells him that the factory's new management will conduct interviews with the former employees and will choose only one of them to work with them. He tells him that he got him an appointment with the new manager to do a job interview and tells him that the interview appointment is in 3 hours. Here, Sue knows that he can't let this opportunity slip from his hands because this is the last chance to get his job back and be able to let his family return to living at the level they're used to. So he decides to leave the work at the paper warehouse. But the warehouse owner refuses to give him his paycheck because he left him suddenly without telling him beforehand. Before he leaves, he makes him hand over the work clothes and lets him leave in his underwear. Nevertheless, Sue doesn't care and prepares himself quickly and goes to attend the interview on time. During the interview, it appears that Sue is nervous and tense, but he manages to answer the questions he's asked. He starts talking about his work experience and the achievements he's made. After the interview ends, his colleague tells him that his answers to the questions were good and also tells him that he's very optimistic and surely he will be accepted for the position without doubt. But Sue isn't as optimistic as his colleague because many people have applied for this position. When he returns home, he watches videos of someone named Song. We learn that Song is the one who took Sue's position at the factory. Sue is upset and feels injustice because Song is less competent than him, but he has connections that let him take his place. Afterwards, he goes to sit with his family to have dinner together. At that moment, Mary tells them that they need to take some measures to secure their financial situation. She says that she will work as a nurse in a dental clinic of a doctor who was her colleague at university, but Sue refuses to let her work. Mary makes him understand that they have no other choice and tells him that their financial situation has become bad and that they've been spending the bonus money he received from the factory for 3 months. That's why many things need to change, like she has to stop going to tennis practice. And also, they'll change their car and buy a cheaper one. But they'll keep their daughter Ree's music lessons because this is the only thing that lets her communicate with people. We learn here that Ree is sick and has autism. Mary ends her speech and says that they also need to sell the house and rent a small apartment to live in because the bank sent them an eviction letter from the house. So Sue is forced to agree to sell the house while sad. Mary tells him that they need to find someone to take the dogs they're raising because they won't be able to afford their expenses anymore. The next day, Sue's father and mother come to take the dogs and raise them for the coming period until Sue's circumstances improve. Afterwards, the man who will buy the house comes to look at it, but Sue is annoyed by him because he deals with arrogance and pride, so he leaves him and goes outside the house. Sue is shocked when he finds Ree sitting inside the doghouse crying. He reassures her and tells her that the dogs will come back again. Afterwards, Sue goes to his manager at the factory and begs him to give him back his job, but his manager refuses. Here comes Song, who took Sue's place at work and mocks Sue because he's a failure and can't find himself another job. He gives him money to go to a bar and drink. Maybe he can find a solution to his problem. Strangely, Sue listens to him and actually goes to the bar. He gets a call from Mary, and she tells him that the music teacher will stop teaching their daughter. During their conversation, Mary notices that Sue is sitting in the bar, but she pretends not to notice so as not to pressure him. The next day, they go to the music teacher to find out why she won't give their daughter lessons anymore. She tells them that their daughter is very talented and that her level has improved very quickly in a short time, to the point that she no longer knows how to offer her anything new. She advises them to take her to an orchestra conductor because their daughter has a great future in playing music. At that moment, Sue and Mary are surprised by her words because as their daughter has never played music in front of them, they guess that the teacher is lying and saying anything to stop giving their daughter lessons. When they return home, Sue keeps watching Song's videos. At that moment, Mary sits next to him and tells him that he's much better than him. She tells him that circumstances can improve in a day and a night. Like, for example, Song has an accident or dies. And at that moment, he will return to work again. Here, Sue starts thinking about his wife's words in a completely different way and decides to get rid of the employees who applied with him for the same position. He goes to collect information about all the people who applied with him for the position and starts examining their papers one by one to know which of them has a CV higher than his. He discovers at that moment that 2 of them have higher experience than him and that they are strong candidates for the position. He also discovers that these 2 were working with him in the same factory and were laid off from the factory like him. So Sue decides to make a plan to get rid of them. He starts with the first one, whose name is Bomo. Sue takes the gun he inherited from his father and replaces it with a toy gun so that his wife and son don't suspect anything. Afterwards, he keeps watching Bomo's house for a long time to find the right opportunity to finish him off. One day, Bomo goes out to the forest to collect mushrooms. Here, Sue prepares to shoot Bomo and finish him off, but Bomo's wife comes and calls him. So Sue backs down from his decision at the last moment. But he keeps watching Bomo and his wife. At that moment, Bomo's wife blames her husband because he stays at home all the time and doesn't do anything in his life except drink alcohol. She reminds him that her father offered him to work with him, but he refused. Bomo tells her that he's very attached to the paper industry and doesn't want to work at something else. Suddenly, he remembers that the company he applied to might send him an email at any time, so he runs quickly to the house to check his email. At that moment, his wife is upset with him and keeps yelling at him as he walks and threatens him that she will divorce him. While she's returning to the house, Sue falls on the ground in front of her, and it appears that a snake bit him in his leg. Quickly, Bomo's wife starts treating him with primitive methods. At this moment, Mary calls Sue, so he answers her and tells her that he's in a job interview, but a snake bit him in his leg. He reassures her about himself and tells her that he's being treated now, and when he's done, he'll call her. At the end of the day, Sue returns to the house and reassures Mary about his injury. When Mary knows that he's okay, she asks him about the nature of the job interview that has snakes in it. He tells her that he was doing an interview with a timber merchant who works in the paper industry, and this merchant asked him to go meet him in the forest where he gets the trees from. At that moment, Mary believes his words, but suggests to him that he work in a field other than the paper industry. He tells her that he wasted 25 years of his life in this field, and it's difficult for him to work in any other field. He tells her that he has an interview the next day with the owner of a large paper company and makes her understand that he doesn't leave any job opportunity in front of him without applying for it. Mary tells him that she will support him and agree to any decision he makes in their lives. The next day, Mary prepares to go to her work at the dental clinic, and before she leaves, she ties the tie for Sue and wishes him success in the job interview he's going to. But Sue isn't actually going to a job interview and goes to Bomo's house to execute his mission and finish him off. Sue succeeds in sneaking into the house without anyone noticing him. As soon as he opens Bomo's bedroom door, he's shocked when he finds Bomo's wife cheating on him with another man. So he decides to leave after the mission failed. Afterwards, Sue goes to pick up his wife from work and is upset when he sees the doctor treating Mary with kind treatment. Sue is afraid that his wife is cheating on him with this doctor, like Bomo's wife did, and cheated on him with another man. Sue remains upset and silent the whole way. After he drops his wife off at the house, he returns again to Bomo's house. At that moment, Bomo has returned home and is sitting on the chair, drunk and not in his senses. Sue raises the gun at Bomo to kill him, but Sue is surprised that Bomo knows him from the days of their work together at the factory. At that moment, Sue gets angry and tells him that he has to kill him. He tells him that he can change his mind in only one case, and that's if he agrees to his father-in-law's offer and goes to work with him. At this moment, Bomo's wife is standing behind Sue, about to hit him on the head. As soon as she hears this conversation, she signals to her husband to be convinced by it and agree. But Bomo refuses and tells Sue that he will never leave the paper industry field. Here, Bomo's wife gets angry, and at this moment Sue sees her and is startled, and a bullet comes out of the gun involuntarily and hits Bomo's shoulder. At that moment, the gun falls to the ground, so Bomo's wife attacks Sue and hits him and manages to take the gun. Sue runs out of the house before she kills him. While he's escaping, he sees Bomo's wife shooting Bomo and telling him that she's finally fed up with him and her life with him because he's a failure and can't deal with his problem. Sue is shocked when he sees the scene. At that moment, Bomo's wife sees him and runs after him to finish him off, but Sue runs quickly, gets in the car, and escapes from her. Afterwards, Sue calls his son and asks him about Mary. He tells him that she's the one who called him a lot, but he couldn't answer her. His son reminds him that there's a costume party that the two of them are supposed to go to today. He tells him that Mary called him a lot so they could go together, but he didn't answer. He also tells him that Mary decided to go to the party alone. At this time, Mary is actually at the party and is waiting for Sue to come so she can dance with him. Here, the doctor sees her standing alone, so he approaches her and offers to dance together, and she agrees. At this moment, Sue arrives at the party, and of course he's upset when he sees Mary dancing with the doctor. Although Mary sees Sue in front of her, she completely ignores him and continues dancing with the doctor. It appears that she's doing this to punish Sue because he was late for her. Sue leaves the party and returns to Bomo's house because he wants to get his father's gun from there. At that moment, he sees Bomo's wife digging to bury her husband's body. He also notices that she intends to bury the gun with the body. After Bomo's wife finishes, she enters the house and celebrates with her lover. So Sue goes to dig in the same place, takes the gun, and leaves the place quickly without anyone noticing. After what happened, Sue returns to the house and sits alone and is sad because he suspects that his wife Mary is cheating on him with the doctor. As soon as Mary returns to the house, she finds Sue sitting waiting for her. At that moment, she notices that he's drunk and not in his senses. He asks her if there's anything between her and the dentist. Mary gets angry and tells him that there's nothing between them. Mary is upset because Sue doesn't trust her and suspects her. She tells him that she's been suspecting him and his actions for a while, but she's not willing to talk. She asks him about the reason for the injury on his head and challenges him to answer her honestly. Sue responds to her angrily and tells her that she doesn't know what he's doing for her and for their children. He leaves her and walks out of the house angry. The next day, Sue starts completing his plan to get rid of the second employee who applied for the position, whose name is Joe. Joe is working in a shoe store after he left the factory. Sue goes and sees at that moment how Joe gave up his pride and worked in a shoe store despite his extensive experience in the paper industry field. As soon as Joe sees him, he asks him what he wants. Sue tells him that he wants to buy a shoe for his daughter. He also tells him that he knows him because he was working with him in the same factory they were laid off from. But Joe ignores the conversation, and it appears that he doesn't want to talk about this subject. He asks him if he has chosen the shoe he will buy for his daughter. Sue tells him he changed his mind and it's better that he goes to bring his daughter and comes so she can choose the shoe she likes. Afterwards, he leaves him and goes. After Joe finishes his work, he's surprised when he finds Sue standing on the road with his car. At that moment, Sue tells him that his car broke down suddenly and he doesn't know how to fix it. Joe gets out to help Sue and tries to fix the car, but he's surprised that Sue raises the gun at him to kill him. Sue is very tense and his hand is shaking, so Joe takes advantage of the opportunity and hits him and runs. Sue shoots him and finishes him off. Afterwards, he takes his body and puts it in the car trunk. As soon as he returns home, he sleeps on the couch from extreme fatigue and leaves the body in the car trunk for the next day. The next day, Mary wakes him up and tells him that the police are standing in front of the house. Sue understands that his crime has been discovered, so he goes out to the police to find out what's going on. But he's surprised that the police are entering the house to arrest his son because his son participated with his friend in robbing a mobile phone store. Sue goes with his son to the police station, and at that moment, he learns from him that he stole these phones to help them with the house expenses. Sue reassures him and tells him that he will get them out of this case as soon as possible. He goes quickly to the mobile phone store owner to talk to him, who happens to be the same person who wants to buy Sue's house. At that moment, Sue asks him to go drop the case, and he tells him that he brings women and has relationships with them in the store. He asks him to get himself together a bit because his reputation has become on everyone's tongue in the city. Before Sue leaves, he tells him to forget that he might sell him the house. The store owner gets scared of him and actually drops the case. At night, we see Shi after he returned home, and he goes up to the roof to smoke a cigarette. But he's shocked when he sees his father wrapping Joe's body with iron wire. Afterwards, he buries him inside a hole in the house garden and puts a small tree on him. The next day, Sue is surprised by two policemen coming to investigate him. They tell him that two people suddenly disappeared, and they are Bomo and Joe. Through their investigations, they found out that there's something that connects them together, which is that they applied for a job in one company. They ask him if he knew any of them, since he applied like them for the same position. But he denies knowing them both. At the same time, Mary is standing and hearing the conversation taking place, and she feels that something wrong is happening. After the police leave, Sue goes to execute the last part of the plan because he wants to get rid of Song. We learn that Sue won't be satisfied with just returning to the company, but he will return and work in the same old position that Song took from him. Also, there's another reason that will make Sue kill Song, which is that Sue wants to take revenge on him because he insulted and cursed him when he wanted to return to work. Sue goes to wait for Song in front of his house when he's returning from work. As soon as he sees him, he stops him and reminds him of himself. He confesses to him that he admires him and follows his Instagram account regularly. He invites him to drink something together, so Song agrees, and they enter the house. They keep drinking until Song gets drunk and passes out. Sue buries him in the ground and leaves his head outside the hole. He wraps tape around his mouth so his voice doesn't come out. Afterwards, he makes him drink a lot of alcohol. After Song dies, Sue pulls his body out and takes it back to the house. He puts it on the chair and arranges everything around it in a specific arrangement, all so that when the police investigate the matter, it appears that Song died from excessive drinking. At this time, Shi tells Mary that he saw Sue burying a body in the garden. Mary is surprised by his words and goes to dig in the place her son told her about. She's shocked when she discovers that there's actually a buried body. Despite Mary's shock and disappointment, she decides to cover up her husband's crime. She returns to her son and tells him that he was imagining things. She tells him that Sue buried a dead pig body, not more. When Sue returns to the house, he hugs his wife and tells her that he loves her. He tells her that all their problems will be solved soon. At that moment, Mary stays silent and doesn't respond. After a few days, we see Sue in the job interview. At that moment, the factory management has no choice but to accept Sue for the available position. Indeed, Sue returns to his job, and we see him supervising the robots that took the place of the factory workers. Although the rest of the work is currently different from before, Sue adapts quickly. After what happened, Mary leaves her job at the dental clinic because their financial level now has changed, and they've returned like before and better. After a while, Mary is surprised that her daughter Ree is playing music, which means that her condition has improved after she returned to her old life. Mary goes to see her and is very moved because this is the first time she hears her daughter playing with this skill. In the end, we see Sue in his car, and he still hasn't comprehended that instead of going to prison, he returned to his job again. The film ends. See you in a new recap. Thanks for watching.